Hello and welcome to Caucasian Journal. Our guest today is Tarmo JÜRISTO, an Estonian civil activist and founder of the new liberal platform SALK. Hello, Tarmo.
Hi, Alex.
Welcome to Caucasian Journal. Estonia's experience might be quite important for other countries. Your story seems like a very interesting case in this regard. An economist by education, a successful theater playwright, a leader of a think tank, Praxis. What made you quit your job and launch the SALK platform?
The short answer to this is marriage referendum that was about to happen in Estonia in spring 2021. Basically, the situation was such that we had to pull together a campaign in a matter of about 3 months, and we knew from the public opinion polls that our side, meaning the side supportive for the same-sex marriage, was trailing. And this is something which is, it's really tough thing to change anyone's opinion in 3 months. So we were kind of scrambling. And this was the reason, or the actual, the immediate reason behind the birth of SALK. I must say that SALK is not really an online platform, though. We can talk about that later.
What is so special about the social and political situation in Estonia that made you think about the alternatives to a political party?
I think that in terms of background, this is not really particular to Estonia. It's a general trend and general problem, at least throughout the Western Europe and let's say Northern America. Liberal forces are very much disorganized. So oftentimes the liberal politics is simply activism. So people getting fed up, people getting angry at something, and then getting together, organizing, be it a demonstration or concert or some kind of resistance or whatever, and then disbanding and going back to their own lives. And this, it's perfectly normal. At the same time, the far right and conservative side has really organized over the last 5 or 10 years. And this is something which again seems to be a general trend throughout the Western Europe and Northern America. The far right and conservative side is well funded. They are increasingly professional, and it shows. So I think that in Europe, at least for me, Hungary, Poland and Brexit were wake-up calls, for warning examples. In all these cases, things happened which a lot of liberal-minded people in these countries thought were impossible. So thought were beyond the scope of political reality, and yet here we are. So I think this is the general background, and there are two kind of interconnected problems with the way how the party-based political system is built up. One thing which has always been there is that the party-based political system is really consists of mutually exclusive choices. As a voter, you only have one vote, so you cannot split it between the different parties, even though you might well find that your interests and your views are split between different parties. So one party might represent your views about the way how the society should be organized in terms of rights and freedoms. The other party might be closer to the way how you feel about economic issues or whatever. You can pick and choose, but you cannot pick and choose in elections. You just have one vote, and you have to give it to someone. And this means that it becomes a mutually exclusive system for you as well. Although many people, I would argue probably most people, most simple voters, do not see the world that way. And the other problem that I see there is with the party politics, and this is really integral to what we do at SALK, is that parties and party politicians tend to view politics as a zero-sum game. And again, it's natural in terms of voting mechanics. So meaning that every vote that your competitor gets is a minus for you, and every vote that you gain is something that kind of take away from the potential result from the others. And it's boils down to the same thing, that voters have only one vote per person, and so this leads to this zero-sum thinking. But again, I would like to argue that for most of the people, politics is not in any way naturally a zero-sum game. It becomes very often because we fall into this trap of thinking the same way as the parties do, and the campaign politics push us this way. The way how campaigns are usually built up is that you're either with us or against us, and so it's the campaigns are built up around trying to make people view their choice of voting as a kind of existential choice, the choice between good and evil. And if you look into politics from a little bit broader perspective, then obviously it's not a zero-sum game. It's something where you can gain from cooperation, and you can gain from compromise. And these are the important points that were kind of conceptually behind what we try to do with SALK. And maybe I would just bring one more idea to the table. And the example that I like to bring here is going back to, say, 1990s, before the advent of internet, or actually at the birth of internet. So at that time, whatever you had on the internet, so the content providers and channels were intertwined. So they were the same thing. Telecommunications companies were providing the connection, and they were also providing a lot of the content. So the AOL Online was a good example at that time. But what happened very soon was that these two things separated. So the telecommunication companies are still around, but their role has become really technical and limited. So it's kind of a delivery mechanism. And what I would like to argue, or the way how I view the future of politics, is that it's not that there's no role for parties. The party system is time-tested way of making difficult choices in a environment where people have legitimately different interests. But at the same time, at least to my mind, something that has been going on again already over a number of years is that the content of politics is increasingly being, so to say, produced elsewhere, not just in party headquarters. It's become much broader, and party system is useful as a way of actually consolidating these different sources for the policy making. But it's not the only place, and this is something where we are also trying to take a little bit broader view and broaden this idea of how politics can be made.
What is SALK in its current form, and what are the future perspectives which you are aiming to?
What we are trying to do is we aim to solve, or at least help to solve, coordination problems. A few more things to mention is that for one thing, that we are almost, I would say, religiously data-based. So we're trying, of course, everyone, myself included, we have our own sympathies, political sympathies, we have our own opinions how things should be. We also have our own opinions how other people think that things should be. But we're trying to be really distrustful of these opinions. So we're trying to, whatever we say, whatever we believe ourselves needs to have a basis in data, and this is really big for us. So it's really important. So also, we're not trying to grow into big organization. We're trying to work together with others. We're working together with media. We're working together with political parties, with NGOs, and what we're trying to do is to build an agile model with basic capacities, and those would be data capacity, analysis capacity, and action capacity. That can be scaled up rapidly upon need. So we're not, we don't have 20, 30 people around working all the time. So our core team is quite small, it's 5-6 people. But if needed, we can grow the team and we can activate lots of networks around us, and we keep these networks and connections going just to be ready. So this is the scaling up basis for the ability to scale up quickly. We're also trying to break away from the activism and advocacy models. The activism part I mentioned before. The activism model oftentimes works this way, that people do what they do at the expense of their family life or free time, and this is something that can be sustained for a period of time. But as I said before, most people cannot live like this for half a year, for years, and they shouldn't. I mean, families are important, so that's something that we're trying to do differently. And in terms of what is the perspective or what we're working towards, then right now Estonia is going to have a general election in 2023 in March. So this is something that we're working towards right now. And if you say very simply what the aim is, then on one hand it's going back to the coordination thing, and we can talk about that in a greater detail again. But in the simplest possible terms, I would say that what we're trying to do is to maximize the footprint of liberal and let's say pro-European coalition in politics at large. So there are different parties that would belong to that coalition, and I put it in quotation marks because it's not the coalition like that forms the government, but it's a broader universe of political forces that have somewhat similar principles and aims.
You are concerned about the state of liberal ideology. What is at the root of the problem?
I don't know if it's really about liberal ideology. I am liberal and leftist myself, but I am actually, in my daily work at SALK, I'm completely ready and willing to work also with conservative and right-leaning people. So it's not really about liberal ideology. I truly do believe that our freedoms are not natural. They are an outcome of many generations having struggled for them, and they can be lost and reverted. Like I made a few passing remarks or references to Poland and Hungary before, but these can be found elsewhere as well. So it's nothing is set in stone in that sense, and it's easy to forget about that the freedom is fragile.
Estonia is often referred to as a digitally advanced society, an e-nation. What are the advantages of an online platform in contrast to the traditional forms of civil activity?
Again, as I said before, I don't see ourselves as an online platform, although we do, of course, leverage internet and technology the best we can. However, we do meet people face to face all the time. We work with traditional media, with newspapers, with TV and radio all the time. It's not just blog posts and social media. It's just that we do not intend to grow into big organization ourselves. We're not trying to build up our own Breitbart alternative or our own media presence. We're working with the existing partners. And the same goes for politics.
Why do you distantiate yourself from the parties?
The easy answer is that we keep distance from parties so that we could work with all of them. As soon as you kind of paint yourself into the corner of having really close ideological ties or sympathies with any one party, then all the others become distrustful of you. We are open that we do have our own political preferences, but to the best we can, we try to leave them, behind the door when we do what we do at SALK. So we're trying to, for lack of a better word, be professional in this and work with everyone. And this is to that end, you need to keep arm's length distance from all the parties. Because, like I said before, they are distrustful of each other.
What What makes Estonia so special and e-friendly? Is it because of high digital literacy, people's trust in government, or just a lucky combination of competent rulers?
I would first pick up the last word, and I would say that we have indeed been very lucky that we really haven't had rulers. We have had governments, and some of them have been more competent than the others, but we haven't had rulers, and this is an important distinction to be made. Now, coming to the digital literacy, I think it helps, of course, but overall, I would view Estonia as a kind of a lottery winner on a couple of different points. So one thing that needs to be stressed is the unexpected lucky success of Skype. And this created kind of an ecosystem in Estonia around technology and IT that has now spread. It gave really two things, at least two important things. So first, it created kind of a springboard and the grooming ground for lots of competent people on the IT technology, internet connection technology, and so on. And it also provided, it made them rich. So it provided initial capital that spread. So lots of these people went on and established their own subsequent companies. And I think just yesterday we had again a news coming out that Estonia now has its 9th, depending on how you count, 8th or 9th unicorn. I mean, meaning the IT company or tech company that has a valuation of more than 1 billion euros. So these have been popping up all the time, and there are more in the pipeline. And this is something that is a very vibrant part, and Estonia is standing head and shoulders above any other European country in terms of the per capita number of hugely successful international IT startups. So this is one thing to keep in mind. But however, there's a twin distinction that needs to be made kind of also historically. One thing is that compared to other former Soviet Union countries, I think we were lucky that we had a few people who were, or let's say the government at that time, who was brave enough to make some decisions in the 90s that helped us a lot in what followed. So the digital infrastructure, the digital identification, which spread through the public sector and government and enabled a lot of things. So this was a brave decision at that time, and we were lucky to have people who would take it and push it. On the other hand, there was another thing. I was working in a bank in early 90s, and this is something that I was able to experience firsthand. We were also in a way lucky that we could start from the zero in 90s with no legacy systems that would have held us back. This is something that I could see in comparison with Scandinavian banks. They had made huge IT and infrastructure investments in the 80s into technology, which was pretty much obsolete with the advent of internet and fast technological changes and progress in 90s. We could start from the scratch, and this means that we didn't have that legacy problem. So we could do a few things in a better way.
Do you think that social and political life in your country is likely to migrate to online platforms?
I would say it depends. In terms of social life, I certainly hope not. I hope we will still remain, talking and interacting in person. But in general, I would say that both social and political life is really mostly about interactions between people, and when the latter changes and transforms, the former also has to. So yes, the digital is going to be an increasing part in both in social life and politics, but I don't think that either of them is going to really transform completely anytime soon or probably ever.
Do you think some of your SALK experience might be relevant for other countries, in particular former Soviet Union countries?
I hope it might, although I don't really see what we do specific to the Soviet past in any way, or even specific to our Central Eastern European location. I just the other day I spoke with a Brazilian friend talking about SALK and then what we do, and he said, I hope there will be SALK in Brazil one day. So I think it's a broader thing than just the regional or historical.
Thank you very much, Tarmo.
Thank you.
We cover what matters. Caucasian Journal.